Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 348 of the Assorted Calibers podcast. The second of the podcast is a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd. And with me tonight, she is the greatest hostess in the entire world, and still the trixiest of tricksy hobbits, Erin Paulette. How you doing, Erin?
I have been dealing with stupid drama all weekend, emphasis on stupid, and I mean, it's so dumb that I lose brain cells talking about it. It's not worth discussing. The short version is that you have grown-ass adults who are acting like children, like catty middle schoolers, and it's just, oh, really? We're doing this? So...
It is always alarming when you encounter them and go, wait, you serious?
Yeah, so, there are real-life adults who get seriously mad about seriously stupid things, and I don't know how they cope with life. So, I'm kind of dizzy from shaking my head all the time. Other than that, I am doing well. How are you doing, Weer'd?
I'm doing all right. We again were up in New Hampshire, and again we're rained out and didn't care. This time it was actually a lot. We got like 2 inches of rain one day, and like the river noticeably changed. We got so much rain, but yeah, it was a good time. We had our friends and their kids, and another friend who we joked about the fact that he was neither married or with kids, and that we were not judging him. In fact, we were a little bit jealous.
Now, is this the camp you go to with Wes from Mind Killer?
No, that's up in Vermont. No, this is the resort. So we were lounging by the pool.
Okay.
The fractional ownership. It's like a timeshare, except for if we don't show up there, we can let we tell the hotel staff we're not here, and they'll rent it out, and we get money.
Honestly, what surprised me for a moment was you said by the poolside, and I mean, okay, mentally realigning, we're in June, so yes, it is summer, and so it was a few days ago, so that's close enough. But for some reason, I was still thinking it was, cold, wet, New England spring.
I was not setting you up for this, but you set up for a beautiful story. No. So... yeah, my friend has a daughter that's the same age as my daughter, and the two of them were just thick as thieves all weekend, and they both were like, we want to go in the pool, and so on one afternoon it was like, okay, it's pool time, and the women folk were relaxing, and the men folk were in charge of making sure the kids don't drown. And so we were sitting in a little cabana beside the pool, and our daughters were swimming in the pool, and it was 55 degrees outside, and we were just shivering. And we tried to go inside to a place that had a window overlooking the pool so we could watch them, and we could quickly rush out the door if anything happened. But they're both strong swimmers. We weren't worried. And then they quickly swam around to a corner of the pool where we couldn't see them. Like, crap, we got to go back out. So no, it was very blustery New England this weekend. So yes, we were beside the pool. No, we really weren't lounging. We were breaking each other's balls while watching kids swim.
Isn't your daughter 12?
11, yes.
11. I don't know. I was thinking maybe she was at the age where she doesn't require that constant adult supervision.
Yeah, she really doesn't. I mean, honestly speaking, she could swim. And there's no lifeguard in the pool, so it's one of those like, yeah, you probably shouldn't really be swimming alone. I mean, just as a general rule. But I mean, that really goes for all ages. And then, but also my friend's daughter, who is also 11, is is not as strong a swimmer, and so therefore there was not as much need for concern, but every parent's a little bit different. Well, we got a lot to go over, so you want to dive right into it, Aaron?
Sure. I mean, there are a couple of topics that I am completely dreading, but yeah, let's get into it.
All right. Well, the first one is really not a topic. There's literally nothing to say about this besides go to the show notes, click on the link, check it out. Or and also if you want to know more, go back to the SIG P320 episode that we did with Matt and Heinrich from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns. But just LFD Research has released another video. This one's a short, and it's just designed to be just a quick educational video of how to do a safety check on a P320 to make sure that the parts malfunctions that they were able to uncover in their longer video are not happening in your gun. And so like this is the one to like keep in your back pocket if you have a friend who has one, or you are having a friendly conversation with a police officer or a soldier who is carrying one. Just show them, hey, next time you get a chance, make sure you before you holster your gun, make sure you do all these things just to make sure everything's working just right, and you can rest easy that more than likely your gun's not gonna go bang when it's still in the holster.
I have a question here. This the thing that they posted from SIG Mechanics, I don't know if that's just a guy with that handle or if he's actually representing SIG.
I actually haven't watched that video to know what's going on, and
I'm not talking about the video. I'm talking about the highlighted reply.
Oh yeah. That's the one he goes to. I haven't actually watched the video that they're specifically referencing, but he does work directly with SIG, and they're kind of throwing a little bit of shade at them, saying that they don't know what they're doing. And I've watched the videos and I know them personally, and they do know what they're doing, but it does appear that SIG is not doing what they're doing in their video, which is making sure that the guns are perfectly safe and working. They are just saying, no, the gun works.
Yeah, so this is once again more SIG. What's the term? Gaslighting and denial or something like that.
Yeah. It sucks too, because again, 90% of the SIGs are totally safe. That's why they're having you do the function test. But just the right combination, and it could be done quite earnestly. Maybe a part got worn, or maybe someone said, "Oh, look at this part's a little bit nicer." You're customizing your gun. They're designed to be modular. And you just threw some regular parts together. You're not even doing some sort of race gun hot rod job, and you could make it in. And along with not fully locking the slide to the rear as you reset the takedown latch, could cause the gun to be in a dangerous condition. And so long as you make sure that you lock the slide to the rear and with the slide lock, as opposed to speed it up and flipping the switch. And I was talking to them just before the show, and I was saying this is kind of the SIG version of Glock hand, where at no point when you're field stripping a Glock should your hand ever be in front of the muzzle of the gun, and certainly not in front of the muzzle of the gun while the trigger is being pulled. But if you're trying to speed run it, that is a thing that can happen. And every year someone puts a bullet in their hand. Field stripping a Glock, and it's not Glock's fault, but it's not how you're doing it. And with SIG, they probably should be a little bit more forthcoming on the fact that you are supposed to lock the slide fully to the rear before re-engaging the takedown latch. And instead, if you just pull the slide back far enough that you can set the takedown latch, you could possibly not have the sear be all the way in its fully upward position, which means it won't have enough to hang on to the striker, and that could be bad. So yeah, just go ahead and click on that, watch that, and again, I would say share that with everybody in your friend circle, because again, this is something that could absolutely save lives.
So speaking of bad, all of the other topics are bad news. Yay.
I mean, there's one in there that's not so bad, but yeah, there's a lot of bad news. The great big one is that every week, so much that I haven't even been talking about it on the show. Other people have. If you follow certain people that are that follow the Supreme Court, they've all been noting. Oh, every Monday morning they jump in and look to see if the Supreme Court is going to take either Snope or Ocean State Tactical, and every week they don't until this week. And if Aaron didn't give the game away, in fact, yeah, they've denied it. So those cases are done. They're dead in the water, and the Snope is a full assault weapons ban. Ocean State Tactical is a magazine ban, and they've both been denied. Now, there is a whole bunch of stuff, and I've been talking with Kostas Moros. I'm going to hopefully have him on for next show to talk about it this in depth. So I don't need to go too deep into that, but there is some talk about possibly they are waiting on another case that's coming up, possibly the Illinois case, which name eludes me. Possibly something else. Possibly they're looking for something to go on, or they just, I've heard some speculation that there's been too much drama in the court as of recently, so they want to pick some less controversial cases to kind of let the seas die down a little bit.
My cynical mind wonders if the Supreme Court isn't trying to run out the clock on Judge Thomas and see if he will retire due to age or health reasons before we get to these big cases. Yeah, absolutely. The Thomas has openly said that he would like to retire soon, and in theory, probably before the end of the Trump administration, Justice Thomas will likely retire, and so that he could be replaced by somebody who he would more approve of, given that he's a Republican appointee. But who knows the exact on that? Another thing that just generally bothers me is that the Supreme Court doesn't seem to be bothered by this, because I was really noting that while Heller and McDonald and now NYSERPA are and really Kitano are absolutely massive Supreme Court cases in the Second Amendment, they really haven't amounted to much, because the states that are friendly to Second Amendment weren't affected by them at all, and the states that were affected by them, the changes were they did either the bare minimum or in many cases absolutely nothing. And also we have seen multiple instances say of, like, it seems like every time anti-gun bills start coming up, safe storage is part of that, which was openly ruled to be unconstitutional. Like, letter in the law says it right there. Locking up or having to disassemble your gun while in DC was completely unconstitutional. And then that was imparted to the states by McDonald. So why are we introducing laws that openly go against that? And it just shows that, like, yeah, people don't care. Just ignore the Supreme Court and it's fine. And the Supreme Court can't do anything. And there really should be some sort of penalty for defying the Supreme Court of the nation. I don't know what that is, because I'm not a legal scholar, but it feels like there should be some sort of penalty for states that go, no, we ain't gonna. I mean, I had a little bit of a musing, and again, it's very, very half-baked, and obviously it also involves trusting the government, of which is something I do not do. But there really should be, like, some form of hotline, because if your car is stolen and you know who did it, you don't have to go to court and have them rule if the manner of which that person took your car without asking you did constitute the legal definition of stealing. You just say, no, he stole my car. And if he wants to appeal
and say, well, I was actually the original owner of the car and it wasn't properly sold. I still have the title in my hand and the title was never sold on. So this car is untitled to the person who says I stole it. But in fact, it's my car. In fact, you stole the car from me. That is a perfectly fine defense and going on, but that's how court cases are handled in most instances. But if I get, arrested because I'm carrying I've got a gun with a 15-round magazine in it, and they say, oh, that's a high-capacity magazine. And I point out the fact that everyone has 15-round magazines. 15-round magazines are crazy common. They're, matter of fact, some of the most common magazines that you can find. And so, therefore, you are violating Heller because it says firearms and they're in common use. You can't restrict. It's against the Constitution. So call the number and say, hey, they've arrested me. Come, U.S. government, come bail me out, and then arrest them and make them defend themselves in court. Let me go free while they figure out a way to avoid the charges.
Mm. I think the thing that bothers me the most about this entire thing is that Kavanaugh made it sound like he would be the fourth judge needed to grant cert, and he agreed with the premise, but for whatever reason didn't grant cert. But yet he still said that he agreed with the premise that the AR-15 is in common use and therefore it shouldn't be restricted, and just the entire thing seems very fishy. If you agree with the premise, grant cert. If you're not going to grant cert, I didn't fully grasp why he decided not to. It feels like that there's backroom politics in play.
Yeah. And on top of that, having it be, this seems like a pretty cut and dry, clean case. I have heard nobody say where the pitfalls may lie in either of these two cases. They seem like they're just very, very cut and dry, people suing because the state is making these things illegal and they shouldn't be illegal because they shouldn't, because the law says so. And they went through and the court just keeps punting and keeps not. And now they've just totally just said, nah, we're not going to take this one. Maybe another one later. And
maybe in a couple of years.
Yeah. And so meanwhile, there are people that, that could be facing jail time. There are people who might be on trial right now. And if the court case went through, they could have that trial expunged, because if the court says it was unconstitutional, that means it should have never been illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know how that works for criminal records, but it certainly works for people that may not be following the laws now and just haven't been caught yet. I've openly noted that, oh my God, when reading on that Switchblade case, it was an assistant. I've got the knife right here. I found it at Smoky Mountain Knife Works. The goofy gun shaped knife that's going through. It's not a Switchblade. It's an assisted opener, just like the assisted openers that I've been carrying for like a decade. It should have been more like 15 years. I've had various. I bought my first assisted opener in 2010. And so, yeah, I've been carrying assisted opening knives on me one way or another for decades, and just didn't realize they were illegal. I thought they were legal in Mass. And guess what? I can say that I've been carrying them for decades, got a whole bunch of them. And yeah, doesn't matter because the courts have ruled that they never should have been illegal. But this case seems like a perfect case. I would have loved for this to have gone to trial. And meanwhile, they didn't take this one and they denied cert, but they took Rahimi. And I've openly told you, we never talked about Rahimi as it was going through the trial process on ACP, because I knew it was going to be a loser. And I just didn't want to get anybody's hopes up. If needed to suddenly say, oh yeah, there was this Rahimi case, and now they've said that restraining orders can't make you a prohibited person because you need a court, you need to be judged. You need to be able to defend yourself. And congratulations, hooray. But Of course, Rahimi, he was a drug dealer. He was, in fact, a wife beater, and he was, in fact, in prison at the time of his trial. So, as a general rule, that's the deck stacked against you. And they took that case.
Tell us how you really feel, Weer'd.
If they were to plot against us, how would they do anything different?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the other awful thing before we talk about the somewhat good thing. And then the could be awful thing.
Yay.
But so you've probably heard about it. There was an attack in Boulder, Colorado. It was I don't know, they call it a demonstration, a gathering. These people were essentially honoring the people that were kidnapped during the October 7th attack. And
yeah, it's a walk done by the Jewish people of Boulder, Colorado, just to remind the other residents, hey, there are still prisoners from the October 7th, 2023 attack, and let's not forget them.
Absolutely. So it was a peaceful march. It was an educational march. It was for a good cause. However you feel about the conflict over there, civilians being prisoners, not a great look. And then this, I think I can safely call him a crazy person. He's an Egyptian citizen. He has overstayed a visa, if that makes any difference to you. And
I would say so, because he's already broken one law. He is here illegally. He entered legally, but then his visa expired, and then he stayed.
Yep. And then he decided to break further laws by brandishing Molotov cocktails. There's word, this report talks about it, a couple other reports talk about a homemade flamethrower. I have seen no evidence of that, so I don't know if that's he was throwing flames at people and they called it a flamethrower as if it was a flame projecting device, but I don't know. But he ended up throwing these Molotov cocktails at people. Thankfully, no one was killed.
But okay, so 8 victims were hurt, and these are people between 52 and 88 years old, 4 men and 4 women. 2 were medevaced, and at least 1 was left in critical condition. So they were burned pretty badly. So yeah, okay, on the one hand, it is good that they didn't die, but critical condition from burns, that's nasty, and that's going to be a lot of pain and suffering. And the 88-year-old is a woman who fled Europe during World War II to escape the Nazis. And I don't know what she may have encountered there, but once again, she is hurt because of her religion. And, okay, to rest this back on topic, because this is, I know what Weer'd is thinking, and I agree. We don't want to make this about Israel. But the point is, you do not hurt American citizens for what another country is doing. Like back in 2001, when we had 9/11, you don't hurt Americans because they're Muslim or because they look Muslim. This is the same thing. American Jews are not Israelis. Any problems you have with Israel, go and have them. But that doesn't mean you hurt people.
No, I agree. And really what ties this all together in the Second Amendment, number one, be armed. And also I can understand why some of these people may not be armed, because I don't even know, Colorado doesn't have state preemption. So Boulder has specific to the city of Boulder gun laws, and it has binding signage, so it can be a crime to just simply carry a firearm into certain locations. Open carry is banned, which also means that if you bend over or the wind blows your shirt up, that could be considered brandishing or illegal carry, and you could get arrested. So there's a major chilling effect towards gun ownership, and also its potential that none of these people are gun people. and they never thought about that. But you know what? This guy definitely did not take any tactics to make it so that he would have been a hard target to hit. And it would have been much preferable for this guy to get a few bullets in him before he ended up burning people. He certainly earned it. And then also, again, don't know about the flamethrower, but certainly in the videos and pictures I've seen, he definitely was throwing glass bottles filled with a flammable liquid of some sort. Thankfully, he doesn't know how to actually make a true Molotov cocktail, because that would have been far, far worse. So thank goodness the crazy evil people are stupid. Yeah, this was still not good, and it's not me belittling anything, but it might have killed some people if there had been napalm instead of just gasoline or alcohol or whatever the heck he had inside those. And yeah, those are Molotov cocktails. Those are destructive devices. That is against the law. You can't make those. They're very, very bad. And yet, oddly enough, even in a state like Colorado that has massive amounts of gun control laws and gun-free zones and all that, yeah, you could just walk right through them. So, gun laws are stupid, and definitely keep your powder dry, folks, because there's some crazy stuff going on, and no matter how you feel about the Israel-Gaza conflict, doesn't mean that you might not suddenly get yourself involved by someone who wants to make you involved.
And also, I would recommend you familiarize yourself with the laws in your state about what constitutes a forcible felony. Because if someone is committing a forcible felony, you are justified in shooting them, even if it's not in self-defense of yourself. But I looked it up, and this is from a Colorado lawyer, and he's quoting the necessary Colorado statute, and which says a person is justified in using or threatening to use deadly force if he or she reasonably believes that using or threatening to use such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or herself or another, etc., etc. So, yeah, this guy is threatening arson and great bodily harm to people. Shoot him. And he's a chunky guy with his shirt off. That's a huge center of mass target. Shoot him.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough of that. I wanted to make sure not to get too much into the politics, but it is a very important Second Amendment story, both in, a gun sure would have been handy there, and the laws that prevent you from lighting Molotov cocktails are about as effective as the laws that say you can't set somebody on fire.
Yeah. What do you want to bet he had the appropriate ATF permit for? Are Molotovs destructive devices?
They're either destructive devices or considered explosive devices. I'm not 100% sure. I had a great conversation with Mad Mike about that. He was discussing similar to his hump stock story, where the idea of if you put gasoline in a jar, that's allowed. And what if you were to put a rag in it to keep it from evaporating? Would that be illegal? And but he was not talking about lighting it and throwing it at people. But it is illegal to have them. It might technically be legal to just like making tannerite, of building them on the spot and then immediately lighting and destroying them. But I am not a lawyer, and they are very dangerous. So don't take my advice and just don't do it.
I want to say that there was a YouTuber who actually went through the process and paid the $200 stamp in order to make Molotovs and then film himself throwing them into a fire pit.
Well, there was the Ordnance Lab did it, and they have the explosives license, so they were just manufacturing them and just registering them with the on their bound book, or however the heck you do it as an SOT. But yeah, they made a whole bunch of different Molotov cocktails and threw it. And there was also, they specifically, just to show how goofy the world is, they fired a Molotov cocktail out of a cannon, and which is a single shot that, upper that uses a blank to ideally send beer cans or soda cans flying downrange, but they were sending Molotov cocktails. And because of the goofiness of the law, they specifically put the cannon on a full auto AR-15 lower just to make sure that they could cover all the legal bases, because full auto is the is the ultimate in tax stamps. It allows you to break all of the NFA rules with that gun. So even though it could not fire more than one shot just by how it was designed, it was full auto.
So the ATF has a lot of rules and regulations, and apparently some of those are being reformed.
Yes. So this is the good news. And so
good news.
Yeah, the good news. And so so they've got a bunch of things listed in this. I'll just go over them real quick. Let's see.
Okay, first, before you list them, what are we talking about?
We are talking about, one of the things that the Trump administration has done is announced to do a reform on ATF and how they regulate FFLs. And so let's see, updated firearms commerce report. I don't really know what that means. It's just how the NFA details. They are making it easier for they're making it easier for people to get the permission slip to transport NFA firearms across state lines. For those that don't know, if you have a machine gun, a short-barreled rifle, or a short-barreled shotgun, but not a destructive device or any other weapon, or a suppressor. I didn't realize that. I was actually talking to someone about that. Like, no, you don't need the permission slip for a suppressor. I'm like, really? But yeah, some people will need to do that, and sometimes it'll take weeks and forever going through. I know our friend of the show with a common name is going to LibertyCon in a few weeks, and last I checked, he hadn't received his permission slip to take his machine gun and other NFA items to LibertyCon for the shoot there. Yeah,
I didn't realize he was coming to LibertyCon.
Evidently,
yeah, it's his first time. I haven't seen him since before COVID.
Oh wow,
yeah, it's been a while.
He's good people. We love him.
He is.
Yeah. Let's see. They're doing an update to the 4473 form to make it both easier to fill out and less prone to getting errors. So that's pretty awesome, especially with what we're going to be talking about a little further down. Let's see. Issuing an open letter to revision of the Brady chart, of which I hadn't heard about before, but it's a tool that allows states. It allows to essentially, it makes a state issued firearms permit can be compliant with this, and therefore it can be in lieu of a background check. So essentially, the idea is to get it so that a lot more states will suddenly be able to, instead of filling out you still fill out the 4473, but instead of getting online with the NICS system, you can just show your card. They'll inspect the card, make sure that that's you and that the card is still valid, and then they'll say, "Cool, you got this card." Then you can pass a background check. Away you go. So that's nice, especially when we hear David's segment. little tease there. Let's see. Standardized inspection and enforcement practices for dealers nationwide. Evidently, depending on where you are in the country, some places the ATF agents are extreme sticklers for certain things, or they have standard practices that are not standardized across. And so evidently this executive order will make it so that the rules for an FFL in, say, Montana will be no different than an FFL in New Hampshire, which that is not the case now. Let's see. Issue an open letter to lift the existing restrictions on importing dual-use barrels. Just sounds like importing of firearm parts. We like that. Finalize a ruling to permit electronic signatures on National Fire Act forwards. This is very good. This will allow you to speed up getting your NFA items while we still have the NFA, which will be for a while, but hopefully we'll get suppressors off of it at least, and maybe a few other things. Comprehensive review of existing regulations to repeal those deemed outdated or unnecessary. This is probably going to do a lot of clearing house, because we just were talking about a lot of really dumb rules and laws. And let's see. Yes. Ending the Enhanced Regulatory Enforcement Policy, or ERP. And that was essentially Biden had the zero tolerance policy. We reported about this on the show before, where essentially one clerical error on a 4473, such as an abbreviation when you needed to write the whole thing out, or a misspelling of a piece of information, that would be enough to get rid of, to suspend someone's FFL. And that's really bad. Let's see. Publishing new administration policy to emphasize firearms traceability and public safety, and de-emphasize the immaterial paperwork errors. See above. Encouraging FFLs that had their license revoked under the Enhanced Regulatory Enforcement Policy to reapply, essentially saying, we're not doing this anymore, and if we hurt you because of that, why don't you reapply? Because you've probably got a good chance of, if your paperwork errors were minor, we're willing to forgive them and give you your license back. Which,
yeah, but if you went out of business because of it, oh well.
Yeah, that is the tough part, is especially since so many places, especially since you don't really hear about, like, say, a Walmart getting their FFL or getting their FFL revoked, so that, they still sell groceries and clothing and all sorts of other stuff. So yeah, if you have to shut down the counter, or maybe you can still sell ammo, if you have to shut down the gun counter for a few years, that's not the end of the world. Most gun shops that were shut down were gun shops. And if you can't sell guns at the gun shop, you aren't a gun shop anymore. So yeah, these people may be just gone, but they might still have the seed money or ability to reopen again, or the desire to. And so that'd be nice. And hopefully a lot of them won't be gun shy, pun intended, for that, because they shut them down once. They can very well shut them down again. And all of these changes are as temporary as the current administration. Let's see, instituting a NICS alert policy that restricts the use of NICS alerts to federal firearms trafficking. As an FFL holder, I can say that these are super obnoxious. I will get a call that'll say somebody 200 miles away from me in New Hampshire had their gun shop broken into, and it's one of those, like, cool, what does that have to do with me? Sorry for them. Especially since it's not like, it'd be great if they gave me, like, the list of serial numbers of the guns. I'm not a dealer, so I can't do that, but the same alert thing, but so that my gun shop knows, hey, if they come in with a whole bunch of newish Glocks in this serial number range, they probably didn't get them legally, and you might want to call the cops. I'm getting bored of reading all of this. There's also there's one here that they're making it easier to import simunitions. That's fun and cool, especially since it's good training. And I was hearing somebody say that using like light guns or other such things, so everybody's a hero. Suddenly with simunitions, which actually sting when you're hit with them, suddenly now people stack up on staircases and really are easy on the corners when they know that they might get shot and it'll hurt. So either way, this is all a step in the right direction. These are all really, really good laws and or good policy. And so that's our good news, Aaron.
Yeah, and for what's not a step in the right direction is earlier, I don't know if it was last week or week before, but we talked about the possibility of the ATF merging with the DEA, and that seems like it's a lot more likely. And before Weer'd talks about this, because I know he will, I just want to read this blurb from Gun Owners of America. And they say, just imagine 3 times the ATF budget, 4 times the ATF tactical units, plus 10,000 new employees, and reduced oversight and accountability. Merging is not abolishing, it's a dangerous Trojan horse.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was focusing, is this is not just a streamline, because this is going to be a bigger, badder DEA and a bigger, badder ATF. And
there's no way it could possibly be used against lawful gun owners, is there?
Oh, God. I mean, these are both law enforcement agencies that are notorious for crappy enforcement of laws. And guns shouldn't be illegal, and neither should drugs. I said it. Yeah. And so, yeah, this is overall bad and terrifying, honestly. And so, but the good news is that really this is penciled into the 2026 budget. So this is something that is not going to happen this year, which means you can call up the Department of Justice. You can call up you could write to the White House. You could talk to your senator. You could talk to your representative. Let anybody you think will listen in the federal sphere, and let them know that you think this sucks, and this is not a great idea. Please don't do this. And there is a very real chance that it may not happen, especially if people think that this may affect them in the midterms.
This next segment of Gun Lovers and Other Strangers is simply titled "Doodaloop Doop Doop Doop." The system is down. The system is down. Doot 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 doot.
Hi, and welcome to Gun Lovers and Other Strangers. I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar with the quote, "A right delayed is a right denied," from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. While it has been applied to gun rights in a variety of ways over the years, it was driven home emphatically this past week. So in this segment, I'm going to talk about firearm purchase instant check systems and what happens when they fail. Wednesday morning, the small gun shop where I work was notified by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations that the Tennessee Instant Check System, commonly known as TICS, the most honestly acronymed government program, was down due to a technical issue. We found out later it wasn't just a statewide problem, but a national one. In addition to TICS, the National Instant Check System, or NICS, was down as well. The difference between these two systems is TICS includes some state-level crimes that would render a person ineligible to purchase a firearm, but are not on the federal database. According to the FBI, 31 states utilize the full services of NICS for all firearm purchases. Partial services to 4 states, where their in-state system is used for handgun sales and the federal one for long guns, and the remaining 15 states, including Tennessee, who perform their own checks in addition to referencing the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. Later that day, we heard from local law enforcement that the National Crime Information Center was also experiencing an outage. NCIC is an information warehouse used by law enforcement for things like identifying missing children and running checks on drivers during routine traffic stops, alerting the officer if the car was reported as stolen or the driver has an open warrant for their arrest. While TICS and NICS were down, no firearm purchases could be made from federally licensed dealers, with the exception of states where carry licenses can be used to bypass the instant check. Unfortunately, Tennessee isn't one of those states. According to the TBI, this is because Tennessee's handgun carry permit doesn't meet the requirements of the federal Brady bill. Specifically, it lacks a requirement for annual rechecks of the permit holder's criminal history and does not require a check through the National Instant Check System. Needless to say, this kind of stoppage is bad for business, especially in smaller gun shops like where I work. As a shop owner quoted in one of the articles said, "We lost quite a bit of money." A Bass Pro Shop or Walmart-sized store might be able to weather a couple days of no gun sales. However, mom-and-pop stores would be hit pretty hard. More than that, this outage, as with previous ones, has demonstrated a serious issue with the various instant check systems: denial at failure. With the way the system is configured, even if no new gun laws are passed, all an unfriendly government has to do is turn off the system and legal gun sales cease. Whether this is a feature or a bug is up to some interpretation. Regardless, it's the way the instant check systems work, and many, myself included, see it as a big problem. So what's the solution? I don't expect the national or various state-level programs to go away anytime soon. In fact, several state legislatures have regular pushes to expand the scope of the systems to things like ammunition purchases, or in the case of New York, 3D printers. Whatever solutions people come up with, I'm confident only some of them will be in good faith. History backs me up on this opinion. Others will be attempts to create a national registry or mandate checks for all firearm purchases, including face-to-face transfers between private individuals in the same state. Ask someone who lives in a very rural area about why that requirement would be a bad idea, or someone looking to get a firearm in response to an imminent threat. In short, I don't know what a workable solution to this problem would be. There will always be failure states, and the more complicated a system, the more severe the consequences of a failure will be to those under its authority. As I frequently do, I fall back on the wisdom of our very own Aaron Paulette, who said, "Always move towards greater freedom and away from greater regulation." In closing, this is the system we have, this is what a failure means, and, as usual, we need to keep an eye on our legislators to stop them from making things worse in the name of, quote, doing something, unquote. Stay vigilant and safe shooting.
So, today, we got to spend a few minutes and talk about how a NICS denial or delay might earn you a visit from law enforcement.
That about wraps up this segment. If you have any questions for me or suggestions for future segments, or a comment on a past segment, please post them on the Assorted Calibers Podcast Facebook or MeWe pages, and Aaron or Weer'd will make sure I see them. I'm also a contributor on the Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. Finally, I'm a published author, and books with my stories can be found on Amazon under the names Brena Bock and David Bock. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. I'm David, and this is Gun Lovers and Other Strangers.
Yeah, unfortunately, David's right. We certainly don't have, the political capital or the public interest to end all the background checks. I mentioned above the system where you can actually use your carry permit does certainly seem like a nice little stopgap. It's not perfect because, again, nobody gives them away for free. It'd be great if they did. But I will have to say overall, it does seem that you don't hear about as many about someone who was issued a carry permit that turned out, they never should have had one. But there's lots of stories of people going into gun shops and passing a NICS check. Because, a lot of states and justice departments and things like that aren't they're a little sloppy about reporting when someone becomes a prohibited person.
I started to say, doesn't Vermont just give them away? But then you're going to say, well, no, actually, because Vermont doesn't issue them, they do something else.
But yeah, yes, they don't give away carry permits, but they do give away letterhead. That is, and I don't know if they charge or not for it either, but you can walk into your local law enforcement office in Vermont and say, I would like the letterhead that says that I am lawful to carry a firearm. And they will take down your information, go out back, run a NICS or TICS or whatever the various, the law enforcement background check system on you. Figure out if you've got anything against you. You come back clean. They'll sign off on a letterhead with the police department that says this police department officially has verified on this date that this person is perfectly free and legal to carry a firearm.
So it's functionally a permit, but not technically a permit, is where you're going with this.
Yes. Yep. And that's
okay.
And that's written into many states that have either universal reciprocity or somewhat reciprocity that, the Vermont state letterhead is the Vermont carry permit per other states' laws.
Well, you are technically correct, which, as the meme goes, is the best kind of correct.
It is the best kind of. All right. Well, this has been bad news, bad news, bad news. Let's have something a little bit more uplifting, shall we, Aaron?
I would like a side order of wholesome, please.
Yes. Oh, to do the wholesome is very fresh tonight. It's an excellent choice, madam. So, history is super important, and to you, the individual, the most important history is your family history. And Miles sits down with his grandfather and talks about his life in shooting.
Hello. Today I'm introducing Donald. He is my grandfather, and he is one of the largest influences in my shooting career, and I thought it'd be great to hear about his life of shooting. So let's get started.
Okay.
You were telling me just a few minutes ago about where you got the initial bug for wanting to know about shooting.
Yep.
Tell us that again.
Okay. When I was 5 years old, walking down the street with my mother and father on a Saturday evening, we came across a state cop, and my folks knew him, so we stopped to talk to him, and I was mesmerized by the handgun he had on his hip. If I'm not mistaken, it was a Colt. But anyways, ever since then, I've had a bug. I wonder if I can get a gun.
I don't remember what that first thing was for me, but I do remember from an early age, I was very interested. And like I said, you were a big influence on me and doing a lot of this. What was the first time you remember going shooting?
The first time I went shooting, I think I was 14. And my brother had a couple of friends came over to the house. We lived in the woods, so they put targets up on a pine tree.
Yeah.
And that's where we were shooting at. And that was the first time I really shot. I was shooting a .22 rifle and a .38 handgun. And ever since then, it's been downhill for me. Guns, guns, guns.
So that was your first shooting experience. Do you remember what the first gun you ever purchased was?
I do. I was working part-time. I was 14. I was mowing lawns and such. And I knew hunting season was coming up. And I had to have a shotgun. So the first gun I bought was a Mossberg bolt-action 20 gauge with the screw-on chokes. And I was able to get quite a few pheasants and partridge with that. Until one day I fell down and I cracked the stock. After that, I just fixed the stock up and sold the gun.
So obviously you started off early on with hunting. I know you've done other types of shooting, obviously, since then. At one point, you were in the military.
Yep.
What did you have when you were there?
What kind of gun?
Yes.
I had an M1 Garand.
Yep.
I also had the carbine that they have. I was using both of them. And I was in a heavy weapons company, so I was using a machine gun and mortar, 81 millimeter mortar.
Oh, wow. I'm assuming around, when you're around 20 years old. Is that correct?
19, yeah.
19, okay.
That's when the Korean War was going on.
Okay.
I was with the 11th Airborne. We were ready to go, but they never called us.
So you had the M1 Garand, also the M1 carbine.
Yep.
I've wanted one of those for a while. The
Did
carbines. You? Yeah, I haven't been able to find one that I can afford. But yes, I've always wanted one.
Well, you used to be able to buy them for hardly anything. Now I understand they're going for thousands.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So you got out of the military and came back and, you've obviously been a hunter most of your life, if not all of it. What was your favorite hunting shotgun?
After I got out of the service,
yeah,
I had an AYA 12 gauge side-by-side, and that was a fantastic bird gun. I got a lot of pheasants with that. Mm. And then I ended up selling a gun, buying a Browning Sweet 16, because they were absolutely beautiful. Semi-automatic, and it had a modified choke on it. But I was still able to hit a lot of birds with it, get them down, got a couple of deer with it. I had that gun for almost 30 years. Then I sold it, got another one. It wasn't a Sweet 16, it was a Browning, I forget what model it was, but it was a 12 gauge. I used that a little bit, didn't like it, got rid of it. Bought a Remington 1100, and that was a good gun. I shot that well. I also shot it on skeet. Shot a lot of skeet with it.
Yeah, I remember you shooting skeet when I was younger, and I remember when you got me out and got me addicted to trap.
Oh yeah, trap was great.
Yep. I got to get back to doing that again.
Trap is more precision, so it seems.
Yeah. I like to do them both, but trap was always the one I liked better.
Yeah. It's harder. It's harder to shoot.
Yeah. I never got that perfect 25.
No, well, you didn't shoot enough.
I kept getting 24s.
Oh. That's good. Nothing
Yep.
wrong with that.
So I know you're also part of the local revolver club.
Not so much now.
Oh, not now, but I'm saying earlier, before.
Yeah.
And you used to do a lot of the, I forget what it was called, the marksman things at the club.
Yeah.
And you shot a lot of different calibers trying to get the good score.
Yeah. When you're shooting in bullseye matches,
Yeah.
it's a 22,
Yeah.
a centerfire, and a 45, and that's what I had.
Yeah, I was going to start doing that at one point. Actually, just before I met my wife, and that's when I picked up my Ruger Mark III Hunter.
Yeah.
And put a red dot on it to do it, and then never made it down to do it.
Never got to the club to do it.
No.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
But the clubs were great. They still got a good crowd at the club.
I've heard that. A few people I know from the area still like going there.
Oh, yeah. It was a good club. When I joined it, there was only 26 members. Now they got a couple hundred.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that like to shoot.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you right now, I've been training quite a few people, and hopefully soon I'll be back up and training again.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of new people getting into it right now. It's a wonderful thing.
Over here, I was down at the rifle range the other day, and one of the instructors was teaching a young lady to shoot. Mm-hmm. She always wanted to shoot, but she just never got around to it. Now she wants to shoot, and he was teaching her how to shoot a centerfire pistol. I think it was a Glock, and eventually he got her right on the bullseye.
Yeah.
And she must have shot a couple boxes of shells, and she kept them all in the black. She was doing good.
Yeah. So over the years, I know you've owned many different firearms, and as you said, you sold some and got different ones for different purposes. Is there any over the years that you just said, I wish I didn't get rid of that one?
No. Whether I did or not, I didn't want to. I'd probably trade it for something else.
Okay. So everything you've let go, it was time for it to go and move on to something new. That's understandable.
When I got out of the service in 55, I bought a 222, and that was the first rifle I started reloading for. And that thing was super accurate. Super. I was able to get a lot of crows at like 100 yards up in a tree. Anyways, the gun was great. It was great to reload for. It was very accurate. Actually, I had two of them. I had a Savage, and then I bought a Remington.
Okay.
And both of them shot beautiful.
If you had anything you would recommend to somebody who's into shooting now, as far as what you think is a great manufacturer gun or something along those lines, is there anything you would say yes for, let's say, a handgun? What would be your preference on a handgun?
Well, I guess it'd be pretty hard because I like the more expensive handguns. Not only because of their looks, it's because they work so much better.
I understand that.
But if they were first starting out, I'd tell them to buy a 22 pistol and stick with it. Don't buy a half a dozen of them. Just buy one good one, like the Model 41 Smith & Wesson.
Yep.
And just keep with it. Preferably join a club that shoots. And they'd find that they were getting better all the time. With the right instructions, of course.
Yeah. Lots of practice and good instruction is always a key to getting better at it.
Yeah. Keep the same gun. Keep using that one. Yeah. And that'll take you right up to the master class if you want to work at it. Not in a year. Take you a few years to get there.
So, is there anything else you'd like to add on before we call it a day?
Oh, while you're younger, you should get into some competition shooting.
Yep.
And that's what makes you better. Whether it's shotgun, pistol, rifle, you just get into competition shooting and you get much, much better.
I'll tell you, that's where I got, it wasn't a true competition. It was more of a fun, but still shooting trap at the club was how I got much better with the shotgun. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And it goes with any of them. And yeah, actually, I've been trying at my local club to get steel plate challenge going again. Because before COVID, they used to do, I think it was weekly, they'd have one night they'd get together and do that. And it hasn't restarted back up yet, but I'm hoping that it'll happen again soon.
Yeah. They're shooting steel plates over to the Revolver Club. And I know a couple of guys that shoot over there, and they say it's not as easy as you think. Of course, the difference between that and precision shooting is you're shooting at a 6 or an 8-inch plate.
Yep.
And even if you just nick it and knock it over, it counts.
Yep. But where precision shooting, you're going for dead accuracy, where with the steel plate challenge and some of the other competitions, you're going for being able to not only still hit the target, but be able to transition targets rapidly.
That's it.
Which can be, both are phenomenal skills to have.
Oh, is it ever? You'd be able to protect yourself very well doing that.
Thank you for letting me interview you.
Okay.
So, first up, I already told Miles personally, I said, tell your grandfather thank you so much. That was wonderful. He did a great job too. You would think that, a lot of people get a little nervous when they're when they're on the recording, and it just sounded like he was just talking with his grandson per usual.
What I liked was when Miles said, he's been chasing that 25 and never got it, and his grandfather says, "Well, you got to shoot more."
Yeah,
just a very loving. Sounds like a skill issue. Try harder.
Yes. And I want to play along. So, Aaron, I do remember the first gun I ever shot. It was a Remington Nylon 66. And I finally ended up buying one. I've been wanting one ever since I've realized what that was and decided, you know what, I kind of want one of those. And then this is also something that I would love to get my hands on, but I don't even know what it is. They had a tiny 6-shot 22 revolver. It was a double action, but it was a gate loader. And you actually took out like the pivot pin to knock the empties out. I think it was like a ROM. It was not a great gun, but it was so tiny and nice and compact, but it was a little 22 revolver. That was the first handgun I shot. And at some point during the day, his dad's Colt 1911 A1 came out, and I was forever ruined. And which leads into the first gun I ever bought was my 5-inch Smith & Wesson 1911. So, Aaron, what were your firsts?
The first gun I ever shot was, I was at a summer camp, and I think I was in what is now called middle school, like 7th or 8th grade, and I don't remember what it was, but it was just a single shot bolt action 22 rifle.
Mm-hmm. Your standard youth cricket, the first gun that my daughter ever shot.
Could be. The first pistol that I shot was my mother's 22 Ruger Bearcat, which is now mine.
That's a good first. 22 revolvers are awesome.
And that's what I use. That's the very first gun I use when I start instructing people on the range. And while I understand that people who shoot for pleasure want the semi-auto because it's faster, but if you are teaching a newbie, nothing is better than the single-action revolver. Mm-hmm. Because they fire the one shot, and it can't shoot anymore unless they work the hammer. And by the time they figure out to work the hammer, you can get it out of their hands if there's a problem.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely excellent. Also, there's no slide to come back. So in the off chance that you miss the person doing like the cross thumbs or something like that, where that's going to put 2 railroad tracks on the top of your thumb if you're shooting a semi-auto.
Yeah, and I had to stop my mother from doing that. I don't remember how many times, because she learned to shoot with a revolver, and she crossed those thumbs, and it was fine for that, but anytime she wanted to shoot something semi-auto, it's like, no, you're going to get slide bite. Don't do that.
Yeah, there's little things like that. I when I first started shooting, I was attempting to do like the front of the trigger guard grip. It never worked out for me, and all that. And then I tried to do that with a revolver. Luckily, it was a .22 revolver, so I just got a black singe mark on my finger. It didn't actually remove any tissue. But if I had been doing it with a .357 Magnum, I would have needed medical attention.
Hmm.
And the first gun you bought, Aaron?
Okay, continuing a pattern here. The first gun I bought was another .22 long rifle. This was it was a tube-fed bolt action, and I want to say it was the store brand version of a Savage something or other.
Very cool.
I think the store brand version was Revelation.
Okay, yeah, those store brand versions are kind of fun, and they actually make nice collectors, because it's one of those like, oh yeah, no. You've got a Marlin Model 60. I kind of have a Marlin Model 60, except mine's a Glenfield Model 60 because it was sold by Sears.
I'm not sure which store sold the Revelation.
Well, if you figure it out, you can throw it in the show notes. And speaking of 22, he talked about the 222. And for those that aren't aware, he's talking about the Remington 222, which is actually the parent cartridge for the Remington 223, which of course is also then led into they're not quite the exact same cartridge as the 5.56 by 45 of AR-15 fame.
So the Revelation was sold by the Western Auto Supply Company.
Interesting.
Yeah, auto parts. And apparently at some point they sold guns.
So did you buy this in an auto parts store?
No, not at all. This was in 2010, and I had just finished working. No, I was still working for the census, and one of the paychecks was to buy the rifle, and I thought it was deliciously ironic that the government was paying me to buy a rifle.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I've definitely done I got a new job. That first paycheck is going to buy a new gun. Well, that was wonderfully wholesome. You know who else is wholesome, Aaron?
Look, I know you want me to say our listeners, and I'd love to oblige you, but I know some of them personally, and a lot of them are filthy, filthy sinners.
Darling Weer'd, I cannot tell a lie. But they're wonderful, aren't they?
They are wonderfully filthy, yes.
Wonderfully filthy. Thank you so much, you wonderfully filthy. And some of you aren't filthy. She's not talking about all of you. It's fine. The ones that are offended are the ones that need not apply. The ones that are nodding, they know who they are. And you know what you did. We really appreciate you listening to this show. And also, I have to give a very special thanks to all our supporters on Patreon. To become a Patreon patron, go to patreon.com/Assorted Calibers podcast and sign up. Patrons get an early release of the show, plus bonus content like the hilarious ACP blooper reels, the ACP film tracks, and the ACP mag dump.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I've got a blog. It's called WeerdWorlds.com. That's WeerdWorld.com. And hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me at Linktree/Aaron Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Aaron Paulette, all one word.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
I'm Strong Bad. He's Homestar Runner. Our cartoon personalities are assorted, and so's our podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night.